Ladies and gentlemen, this is a final summing up of the morning. There's supposed to be a time for a few questions. I think we may have it. But for those who were not here at the conclusion of the first session, I would like to say that this little pamphlet on urban renewal in the, I think it's on booth number 28, is available, and I believe it's free. And I think that it is worthwhile your going there, taking a copy, taking it home, and studying it. Now, I believe that the next session starts at 2 o'clock, and I think if we conclude here at 1, we have some 15 or 20 minutes of questions. If we can't get the answers here, perhaps we can indicate where they can be found. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am. The question was, what is happening to a bill that has just been passed, I think by the House, and is yet to be considered by the Senate, subsidizing rents in these new urban renewal places? I have read something of that myself, but I don't think I can cast much light on it. I do know, however, that if the bill goes through in its present form, it will be possible for people with $10,000 or $15,000 a year to live in some of these places and have their neighbors in the same place pay for a part of their rent. There are some angles to this thing that are simply amazing to me as I have read it, but as I say, I'm not too sure about it. I wish I could comment. If there is anyone here who does know more about this, I wish he'd come forward and make some comments on it. Yes, sir.
What can we do, the non-residents of Boston, to help the people in the North Harvard area and the Charlestown area and the South Cove area? How can we help them to stop these programs?
I think you heard the question, and it's a very, very good one. We sometimes present a problem and grouse and grumble about it, and then we fail to come up with a workable solution. Now, my thought, and it's just a personal one here, is that if we have more people like John Howard going around and telling people, informing people, the newspapers won't do it, giving the facts, then we can get somewhere. Now, there are some organizations that have started on this thing. Perhaps, I think this is a question that perhaps John Howard ought to answer. Have you got some questions on this, please?
Just the point when I was loading up my pipe, too. This is not an easy question to answer, because you are talking about, first of all, organizing what would have to be a statewide organization dedicated to the defeat of urban renewal. We know that General Law 121, which allows the cities and towns in the Commonwealth to organize urban renewal authorities, should be attacked on a statewide basis. But I'm afraid that the most effective, and of course we find that this is usually the case, if we really want to get something done, try to do it yourself. It will be up to the people of a town or a city to elect to the city council, in the case of Boston, people who are dedicated to destroying the urban renewal program. Because in spite of the fact that the Boston Redevelopment Authority and similar authorities like it do have tremendous power, not a single one of their plans can be put into operation without the consent of the city council. So that although we will always have with us, I suppose, the mentalities such as Ed Logue and men who administer such programs, these men are rather helpless without the cooperation of the local city fathers. So that my answer to your question is to give, in the case of Boston, you want to help the people of Boston, to give whatever support you can to any local political campaign that they may come forward with that would replace the present city council with a group of 9 good men or women who are dedicated to stopping the urban renewal program.
How do we get rid of Ed Lowe and his ilk? And how do we discontinue the redevelopment of the market garden in Brookline?
John, would you care to answer that? How about you, Jerry?
Getting rid of Ed Logue, I'm afraid, is not going to solve many of your problems, because he's just a figurehead that everybody pounces on. When they want to attack Renewal, they say, Logue is no good, Logue is an SOB, Logue is this, Logue is that. The plans still go through, however. So just getting you're just getting the icing off the cake if you get Ed Logue. The point is, and that John made earlier, is to take away to establish a constant veto power on their plans. And of course, if you do this, they have nothing to work with. It's impossible, practically speaking, to repeal General Law 121. We had a bill in the legislature, we tried it. Well, it made the legislature, but with full knowledge, obviously, that it wouldn't make the Senate. So, it makes it in the House and gives everybody, good feelings about it. Then they get it in the Senate and they squash it. So getting rid of Ed Logue is not going to solve your problems.
If I might make...
Excuse me again. I'm sorry, I don't know much about the project in Brookline.
If I may make just a little comment on this thing, it seems to me that the elections this coming fall and next year and the year after, we can put some officials in office who are going to do the will of the people and not the will of the bureaucracy. Yes, ma'am.
Possible to get the names of the politicians on the national, state, and local level who have vigorously opposed urban renewal. We never hear about them.
Well, there's a very good suggestion, and that is if those who didn't hear it, we could get the names of the people on the national committee who are opposed to urban renewal. I think that's an excellent idea. I suppose if you wrote down and got the names of all the officials connected with the federal angle of this, that you might find somewhere, here and there, 1 or 2 people who are opposed to the way in which it's going. Of course, the real trouble is that you and I and everybody has the same goal, but we have different means of attaining that goal, and the present means being used is wrong. Yes, sir.
Out of Cleveland, Ohio, in 1959, Conrad Hilton wanted to take part of the Cleveland Public Hall and have that sold, given over to him and private syndicate in order to put up a skyscraper hotel. And I just want to tell you that we were fortunate in defeating that by way of referendum with only a 4,000 majority. But that's one little bright spot on the horizon, that we stopped the urban renewal for a moment there, though they're going all wild on it today.
Well, did you all hear that? I think that is an excellent thing, and of course that goes right back to the fundamental thing of having a referendum and doing the will of the people. It is where they cut that out and don't permit the people to vote on a subject as close as this that the real trouble comes. Yes, ma'am.
May I say something, please?
This-
In Boston and in Cambridge, we have these institutions who are benefiting by urban renewal. Now, when you have MIT and Harvard and the churches and the temples who come in and take from the people, how are you going to cope with that, Mr. Howard?
Get them to read the 10 Commandments.
Oh, my church, well, yes. We need a more positive, practical approach to that.
Mr. Howard has a word that he'd like to add to that.
It's always difficult to keep the a discussion on urban renewal strictly to urban renewal, because it is really, in the last analysis, simply another symptom of the socialistic type of society that we have been developing. Now, we know that in all socialistic societies, any private type of organization, be it a university or a church, really has a difficult time of it financially. So here again, we have another evil that has crept into our society, the corruption of institutions which should be the leaders in defending our traditions. This, you've heard the old saying that through the power of economics, I will buy and sell the souls of men. We have today many of our large universities which are finding it extremely difficult just to maintain their large plants because of the insane economic tendencies that we have been adopting one on top of the other over the years. And two, our own parochial school system has come under terrible financial pressure, so that we even now have men who a few years back were dedicated, opposed to federal aid to education, now considering the necessity of federal aid to education in our parochial schools if they are to survive. So that the welfare state seems to sow the seeds of corruption for all of our private institutions, in that it makes them almost financially, it makes it almost financially impossible for them to survive, so that you find large universities who are getting grants from the federal government of all types, calling for programs like urban renewal. You also find that at these large universities, their schools of architecture and city planning are actually the fountainhead of the socialistic theories that are involved in the present mode of city planning, where more and more power is called for to control the individual, where the individual is looked upon as a vexatious thorn in their side for their master plans, you see. You can visit any large university that has a school of architecture and city planning, and you will find that they work on practically the same handbook. So that all along the line, you will find what in the past were institutions defending our traditions are now under our welfare state institutions which are helping to subvert them. Thank you.
The young lady down here.
I believe that the workable program hasn't been mentioned here, but as a break upon the proceeding of any urban renewal program, if every person in this auditorium made himself a missionary to defeat urban renewal, and in Boston, I think it comes up in October or November, and they went right on an immediate campaign for the purpose of defeating the workable program. For the city of Boston, they could put a break on Harvard and MIT and the other tax-exempt institutions that are pushing to control their property. I think that this lady here, that if she wrote to Bruce Allinger at the House Office Building in Washington, D.C., she could get a list of the names of the committees in Washington that are helping to defeat urban renewal. But by all means, do everything you can to kill the workable program when it comes up in Boston again in October. Defeat it. Stop.
Very good.
Repeal or change the 1954 decision, Supreme Court decision. Isn't there any legal way to go back and either have it amended? Why do we just talk about it and as if it had to be on the books all the time? Does it have to legally?
I think the answer there is that it is a precedent, and the present court will abide by that precedent. If we could change the Supreme Court, then we could get somewhere. But the present Supreme Court is going along with most of these socialistic and that sort of thing. It's a very difficult thing to do. Now, maybe, would you have some comments on that?
It seems to be that the urban renewal program was a very well thought out plan, that long before we heard of it, just about every loophole, legal loophole, was pretty well closed up. However, when it comes to the 1954 decision of the Supreme Court, this could be changed by another decision of the court, but unfortunately with the present court this is not likely. I do not know, however, of any case that has been brought before the Supreme Court on urban renewal since the Bourbon versus Parker case. It'd be well to try another one.
We have time, I think, for a couple of more questions in here. The lady in this...
I'd like to know how we could petition the Cardinal or someone to get Monsignor Lally removed as chairman of the Boston Redevelopment Board.
Apparently, the removal of Monsignor Lally from the board is popular here. I know of no way. I happen to be I know the Cardinal and have corresponded with him, but I'm an Episcopalian, a Protestant, so I can't do it. And if I did, I think it would be presumptuous of me. But my feeling of Monsignor Murray, whom I've met and known, and Monsignor Lally, I know Monsignor Murray too. He's, I think, just gone down to Birmingham or someplace like that. These are things that are angles of the urban renewal business, but yes.
Another question is, do you think it's right for the Boston Redevelopment to have seminars out of Boston College, and at every seminar that they do have, they have booze parties and out there, and that is how I think they are getting a lot of the people. In the Boston, they spend $39,680 every year is appropriated into the Boston Redevelopment from the taxpayers' money for seminars and banquets and catering events, just so that they'll have this urban renewal.
Well, this is something that I'm not very familiar with. Perhaps some of the other panelists here could comment on that. John.
It is a mark of charity that a Roman Catholic would take an Episcopalian off the hook in that matter. We know, of course, that the Boston Redevelopment Authority, its chairman is Monsignor Lally, Roman Catholic priest, and that Boston College has held seminars on urban renewal and city planning for the state of, on a statewide basis, actually. They have very large plans that have been discussed at Boston College. And this is one of the confusing aspects of our time. I think in time we will see these points resolved, because any Roman Catholic who is familiar with the encyclicals of the Pope, as Dr. McCrossin quoted here in Rerum Novarum, that the public good cannot be a justification. These are not the exact words of the Pope, but the public good cannot be a justification for the seizure of a man's property. This has been well defined in the encyclicals time and again. In Quadragesimo Anno, it was stated that the misuse and even the non-use of property does not forfeit the right of ownership. And yet we are told today, if a person lets his property run down, it can be seized by eminent domain under the laws of urban renewal. This is immoral. And any Roman Catholic who is at all familiar with the encyclicals know that private property throughout the encyclicals is very strictly defended. And we know that from these encyclicals that urban renewal is hence condemned, so that it is quite confusing today to find Roman Catholic priests out at Boston College defending and discussing how we can have a better urban renewal program and having the authority presided over by a Roman Catholic priest. But I say that they do not by any means represent the official word of the Roman Catholic Church, and there are any number of their colleagues who disagree violently with them.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now just 1 o'clock, and I know that this is the most interesting part to many people, the question and answer period, but I'm afraid we're going to have to stick to our schedules, and if we can start promptly at 2 o'clock this afternoon, perhaps there will be a greater opportunity to ask questions after the session this afternoon. Thank you very much for your interest, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock.